Hello, welcome back. It's still Peace Okechukwu. I'll be looking at cardiac cycle, and of course, because I want you, my friend, to be used to the terms, to the parts of the heart, we're going to label them again. So to say here is the base, the apex of the heart, cardiac apex. Okay, we have a right atrium, a right ventricle, a left atrium, left ventricle. Okay, so the aorta, pulmonary trunk, pulmonary arteries, pulmonary veins, then the valves, where we have a tricuspid valve, a mitral or bicuspid valve, seminolar valves. Okay, so the cardiac cycle. So it happens during heartbeats. Actually, for any healthy adults, the heart should be for about 60 to 90 beats per minute. And there is need for contraction, which we call systole, and relaxation, which is called dystole. So those are the two terms we'll be using in cardiac cycle: systole, contraction; dystole, relaxation. Thank you very much. Okay, so I try to see the cardiac cycle as both the flow of blood and the conducting system all together. You get? So if I can understand conducting system, if I can understand the flow of blood, then I should understand cardiac cycle, because we'll be looking at the flow of blood, and we'll also be looking at the conducting system. I mean the atrial contraction. Okay, so what happens? There are stages in cardiac cycle where we have the atrial systole, the ventricular systole, and the whole cardiac dystole. So blood actually enters the heart through the right atrium and the left atrium. So I'm going to try my possible best to explain this, sketch it out. Okay, so blood comes in here and here. At this point, the valve, because of the increased pressure in the right and left atrium, the mitral valve and the tricuspid valve tends to open. You understand? So there is pressure here. Blood is in. There is pressure. So this is forced to open. That's why the valves are faced this way. So there is pressure, and because there is need for this blood to eject here tends to open and blood comes in here. But a fact is that even before atrial contraction, that about 70% of the blood goes into the ventricle. So now the blood here is in here, but not everything. You have about 70% here. So there is still 30% here. So what happens to the 30%? There is atrial contraction. That's as a result of the SA node sending impulses. So because of that impulses that's been sent, there is contraction, and there is total release of blood, total ventricular filling, where we now have about 100% here in the RV, and the LV. That's the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So at this stage, atrial contraction has had complete ventricle filling. What also happens here is that At this point, there is little delay if you can remember the conductor system for about 0.1 seconds. So now 70% is here, 30% is here. There is a delay of 0.1 seconds, helping total ventricle filling. You get that point. So our first stage now, we have 0.1 seconds. So let me just keep this here. We'll come back to it later. So here we now have about 100%. Here. Okay, now this valve needs to close because the pressure in the atrium is now lesser. You get, since our pressure here is lesser, the pressure here will be greater than the ones in the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. You get, pushing the blood, pushing the seminal valves open, allowing the blood to be ejected and then into the systemic and the pulmonary circulation. Now, as at this point, it takes about 0.3 seconds. Now, after blood must have gone through the systemic and pulmonary circulation, there is need for relaxation of both the atrium and the ventricle, both the right, left, and the ventricle, and this will take 0.4 seconds, making it a total of 0.8 seconds. So if you've been following, we would now deduce that for cardiac cycle it takes about 0.8 seconds, and the stages atrial systole, ventricular systole, and then cardiac dystole, which is 0.1 seconds, 0.3 seconds, and 0.4 seconds. If you enjoyed the lecture, thank you very much.